For me, there's a simple rule in politics. Never, ever be surprised by what happens in politics.
The face of truth is open. The eyes of truth are bright. The lips of truth are ever closed. The head of truth is upright. The breast of truth stands forward. The gaze of truth is straight. Truth has neither fear nor doubt. Truth has patience to wait. The words of truth are touching. The voice of truth is deep. The law of truth is simple. All you sow, you reap. The soul of truth is flaming. The heart of truth is warm. The mind of truth is clear and firm through rain and storm. Facts are only its shadow. Truth stands above all sin. Great be the battle of life. Truth in the end shall win. The image of truth is the cross. Wisdom's message is its rod. The sign of truth is Christ, and the soul of truth is God. Life of truth is eternal. Immortal is its past. Power of truth shall endure. Truth shall hold to the last.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe. Our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living room. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
When talking about country, St. Lucia is best. When talking about country, we differ from the rest. While most other countries have just one leader, we have two leaders in St. Lucia. Let me explain. Kenny made one step forward with employment. Tony made 2 steps backward, 6 months back on the pavement. Can he remove the license fee to drive on the road? Tony raised the price of gas, which is a heavier load. Can he give minibuses special concession? Tony then raised the cost of their operation. We have 2 people running the country, just you look and see. We have 2 people running the country, I hope you can agree. We have 2 people running the country, just look carefully. We have 2 people running the country, Kenny and Tony. They working in tandem, 2 peas in a pod, one common intention, we gave them the nod. In my opinion, the 2 are a perfect fit. While one is credit, the other is debit. Let me explain. Kenny offer 8% increase to small fries like we. Tony may offer 20% to big ups in the country. Kenny claim that the country has no money. Tony giving party supporters big salary. Kenny lower the age of pension in the public sector. Tony raising the private sector higher. 2 people running the country, just you look and see. We have 2 people running the country, I hope you can agree. We have 2 people running the country, just look carefully. We have 2 people running the country, Kenny and Tony. The 2 are in control. 2 of them are tough. 2 of them are so bold. They exploit our trust. Because St. Lucians are peaceful people. We just take a lot before we rumble. But we are in trouble. Can he remove the burden of the exit certificate? Tony raised the patcher tax and the tax on the line ticket. Tony claims that the country has no money. Kenny giving party supporters big salary. Kenny may be a sheep in wolf's clothing. Tony is a wolf, sheep clothes he wearing. We have 2 people running the country, just you look and see. We have 2 people running the country, I hope you can agree. We have 2 people running the country, just look carefully. We have 2 people running the country, Kenny and Tony.
His most favorite track, most popular track, and that is Bingo performing Kenny and Tony. So we're a little bit conflicted. Remember the era of him giving with one hand and taking with the other. And why we're focusing on Dr. Kenny Anthony today. And let's call this the Kenny Anthony Show. It's because last evening, during a political meeting of his constituency, he announced that he will not be contesting the island's next general election. This no doubt would have come as a surprise to some, but I'm sure that many people were anticipating that this announcement would have been made. Thus, we can conclude this is the end of an era. And the jury is still out as to how we should really view Dr. Kenny Anthony in terms of his stewardship as Prime Minister of this country over a 3-term period and as the MP for Vieux-Fort South for almost 3 decades, starting in 1997. We welcome you to another edition of the world's most monitored talk show, that's NewsSpin on Power 97.9 FM. We are also on the NewsSpin Facebook page as well as the NewsSpin YouTube channel. In a moment, we'll be hearing from Amanda because she'll be going through some of your comments in the chat room as usual. And I'll be hearing from you at 452-2979, 452-2979. Your WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. There you have Dr. Kenny Anthony announcing his political exit last evening. Once again, and this took place in the Vieux-Fort Square. That's him announcing that he has had it and he will not be contesting the next general election that is constitutionally due for July of 2026. But many believe that that poll will ultimately take place during the course of this year.
I have therefore decided that I will no longer offer myself to be your candidate at the next general election. Some of you will be sad and disappointed. Some will gladly see my back. Also aware that some of you believe that it is time for Vieux South to be represented by a Vieux. Even though I respect those who openly profess such views, I do not accept their logic. But they too will get their wish. But I hope I will continue to be an example of a politician who demonstrated that place of birth and upbringing are not impediments, that what matters are commitment, dedication, truth, love, and respect.
You heard there from Dr. Kenny Anthony. Place of birth should not be a prerequisite to determining whether somebody should be given the opportunity to represent a particular constituency. It's all about truth. It's all about integrity. And I'm sure that this would give you a flashback to what has been said, I think, by so many people in this country who are myopic, and maybe you could say they are ignorant, or deliberately what they're doing is playing on the prejudices of certain people in our society when they tell you that this particular individual was not born in St. Lucia and therefore he ought not to be the MP for a particular constituency or the Prime Minister, but yet still they could glorify other people. Go back to David Thompson over in Barbados. Glorify Sir John Compton, who was born in Canouan. Sir George Mallet, the late George Mallet, who was born in Panama. So you heard it from the mouth of Dr. Kenny Anthony. One other point that he made, which I'm sure would have struck a chord with many decent people in St. Lucia. We're not talking about hacks from the SLP or the UWP, is that there is room in politics for civility and respect. And my guest on last evening's Newsmaker Live was Leonard Spider-Motoot, the PRO of the UWP. And he said one thing he can vouch for is that Dr. Kenny Anthony had class. You know, it's like Brian Lara, a hooper, hitting a ball for six with not much aggression, but with poise and ease. Dr. Kenny Anthony again making that point. There's room in politics for civility and respect.
And those of you who campaigned with me in those years will remember I never denigrated Hilary Saldibus. I never denigrated Carl Daniel. And no matter what the challenge and how formidable the challenge was from Ulrich Mondesi, I never attacked or abused him. And I hope this lesson that there is room in politics for civility and respect is learned. Because if we have done anything in Beaufort South, is to say that over these 28 years, we have handled our politics differently, with class, with civility, with decorum, with respect, with understanding.
Outgoing parliamentary representative for Vieux South and former Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Dr. Kenny Anthony. Certainly we can do with some civility and respect in our politics right now as we're heading towards a general election. But will you, as the voters of St. Lucia, demand it? Will the respective political leaders of our two main parties demand it? Talking about Philippe J. Pierre, demand it of your MPs and likewise Alan Shastney. Because no matter what you want to say about Dr. Kenny Anthony, he was very, very much well-read individual and sophisticated. And for me, I'm not saying that primarily now because he's on his way out of the political arena. I've been very consistent in saying that one, Dr. Kenny Anthony, to his credit, facilitated press freedom in St. Lucia when he came on the scene in 1997 and facilitated press conference after press conference. There was a level of accountability and transparency on the island which we had not as reporters and journalists experienced for several decades. Of course, there was a volte-face on his part come his second term as a prime minister between the year 2001 and 2006. He had less press conferences because he was under a bit of pressure. I'm not making excuses for him. He was under a bit of pressure because a lot of questions were being posed to him regarding his stewardship on a number of matters, certain policy decisions that were taken. So I suspect, as is the case with most politicians, he came into office in 1997 with a clean slate and no one could have attacked him on anything at all. So he felt that he was comfortable in hosting those press conferences and answering our every question. But we all know what transpired after that. Relations between his administration and the press soured. Of course, I can attest to this. I have my personal experience, but we'll not get into this. But he has issued a warning to the United Workers' Party candidate and Lady Lee. I'm sure at some point in time during the course of the campaign we'll be hearing from her. Those individuals who are seeking to replace Dr. Kenny Anthony as the SLP candidate are Augustus Cadet and also Tresha Lionel. There's one Danny Butcher and Kentry Frederick. The St. Lucia Labour Party has the arduous task of selecting a candidate to replace Dr. Kenny Anthony. And they find themselves in a dilemma because on one hand, Dr. Kenny Anthony is saying it is for the SLP through the various mechanisms that have been set up to select a candidate and through a democratic process. But also, according to him, he says that he will express his views on the candidate of choice. Now, Dr. Kenny Anthony has been the MP for a long time, and therefore it places the SLP somewhat in a dilemma. If they select a particular candidate that does not meet the approval of Dr. Kenny Anthony, therefore they can expect some kind of backlash. So let's listen to Dr. Kenny Anthony as he says that he will express his views on the candidate of choice once that announcement is made.
Henny, what belongs to me is my right to express my views about the candidate of choice and to interact in the manner that I choose with the person selected to be the candidate. That is my right. That right I will guard jealously. I will not surrender that right to anyone.
So certainly we'll be hearing from Dr. Kenny Anthony once that candidate is selected, possibly within the next few months. Let us hear from you right now at 452-2979. Once again, 452-2979. Your WhatsApp calls and messages at 716-2026. Once again, 716-2026. But remember that NewsSpin has already endorsed a candidate for VA4 South. And that candidate of course, you have made the announcement. I don't know if you're aware or privy to it. Is APA, independent candidate for that constituency. And he has been, I'm told, campaigning for a while. I don't know what it is the latest with regard to his efforts to become the next MP for that constituency. Let's try and see if we can speak with APA, if he's on the line right now, as we say hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, Tim.
Good afternoon to you, APA. How are you?
I'm good, my brother. I'm good. Everything is okay.
What is your reaction, sir, to Dr. Kenny Anthony deciding not to contest the island's next general election?
Well, I'm not surprised, because as I've said in previous interviews, I've chatted with the doc in the past, and he had made it clear to me,
Mm-hmm. So when you heard him make the announcement last evening, it did not come as a surprise to you?
Last evening, there were still doubts, I was still expecting anything, from, the Doc Woods. Anything is possible in politics,
Right.
So, in as much as expecting the decision he made, I still had a little doubt.
What do you remember him for the most? What is his legacy as far as you're concerned?
Well, the Doc left a good legacy behind, Maybe in Beaufort it is not as transparent as on the island in general, you understand? But the Doc left some things behind.
But some people are
it
saying...
could have been better.
Yeah, but when you say could have been better, what do you mean? Because some people are saying that while he stood out as the Prime Minister of St. Lucia for 3 terms, there's some issues with regard to the representation provided to VF4 South.
Yes, it's obvious, it's clear, But in regards to security, police stations and firehouses, he came through. And as he spoke about, education, at the time, in the early years when the Doc came in as a minister, he opened 2 secondary schools and brought in universal secondary school. That was a good idea. But over the years, as it was unfolding, we saw, the universal education, secondary school education was not a very productive move for our youths, because a lot of our youths, couldn't read, couldn't write, fluently, and they were sent to secondary schools with them minimal, potentials, and they couldn't keep up with the more prolific students, and we had a lot of dropouts and, teenage pregnancy and certain things come true, I support the universal education still, but it should have been more practical, we should have leaned more towards the practical sides of it, man. Because when you look at it today, you see Sean Edward has taken 4 secondary schools, and turned it into TVET. You understand? That is not upgrading, that is downgrading to my knowledge. I would be more thankful and give the Doc more praise if he had brought the university education in St. Lucia. Because, the Beaufort community, we have been having scholarship from government, and not many youths from Beaufort benefited from that. And I feel if there was a university in the country, it would have been more easily accessible for our students, because a lot of our students graduate, and that is it.
Are you still going to contest the upcoming general election as an independent candidate, APA?
Yes, I will.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for speaking with us on this afternoon's NewsSpin program. Just heard there from APA. He intends to contest the VA4 South constituency in the upcoming general election as an independent candidate. Let's open the lines to take your calls. 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Another call via WhatsApp. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, team.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon to you, caller.
So I don't really want to talk about Kenny Anthony, but since
Today,
he's the hot topic.
Today is the Kenny Anthony show. That's what we're focusing on exclusively.
Really, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Well, let me give you my take on that for sure. But I'll call you tomorrow for the other one I really want to talk about. But for me to really say anything about Kenny Anthony, I must bring somebody else in. So you need to do a comparison. You want to know if Kenny Anthony was a good representative? Let's just we'll not use Alan, but we'll use Sir John. And we're not looking at Sir John on the base of the country. We're looking at him based on the constituency, because on Facebook now has this argument that Sir John represented Mikud, and, Mikud is in a state. But I need to let people know that Sir John's majority of representation was for Mikud South, not for Mikud North. Before there was a split in the constituency, as far as I understand, that was way before I was born or around that time. He was, Mikud. But from the time they had the split, Compton have always been Mikud South. We've never had anybody else representing Mikud South before Sir John. So we look at what Kenny did in Viewfort. So if you go all around the place where Kenny have been representing him, you'll get a lot of maybe concrete footpaths. You'll get roads. Kenny did some good thing. Now, hearing that this is coming from me, I'm not a supporter of Kenny. I'm not a supporter of the Labour Party. But I can tell you Kenny did a lot of good things. One of the things Kenny did, he was able to relocate some of the people in Viewfort to cantonment and those places and help them to get their portion of the land. And he did some things. But you see, the mentality that Kenny Anthony used versus what John Compton used in Mikud South is two different types of leadership. Kenny Anthony developed a leadership style that had people relying on him, depending on him for survival. Whilst John Compton developed a leadership style where he had his people becoming independent. And that's why he was able to help a lot of the farmers, creating the roads in the countryside, and so that the people could get access to the farms and those type of things. There was a point when I grew up I was still young at the time, they used to call it Barber Green. That's the asphalt road we have now. Mikud South was the first constituency you got that road. He made sure that it was BND at the time that was doing the East Coast Road. He made sure that they did that road in Mikud South before they went on the highway. Biggest multi-purpose center in St. Lucia, Mikud South. He made sure all of the 6 communities had facilities for the young people, playing fields, multi-purpose courts, multi-purpose centers, schools. John Compton developed Mikud South. Mikud South was far ahead of a lot of other communities in St. Lucia. Kenny, on the other hand, whilst he did those small infrastructural works, but he did not develop the people. One of the only things that was in Viewfort was the dock, the port. Instead of Kenny, increasing and developing that port so that they could host most of the cargo ships coming down, he diverted them to Castries Team. Now, Viewfortians know that a lot of the dock workers lost their work. So whatever Kenny did in Viewfort, a family member would have lost a loved one. Kenny would have assisted them in their funeral. Kenny would have assisted them to buy a gas tank, and a lot of these things. He did all of that. But all of that was really keeping the people in his pocket. He did not develop the people. So he kept them relying on him. So to them, he's a great leader because they kept on getting the peanuts from him. But they have not experienced what it is to get your community developed in such a way that you're able to get work, that you're able to provide for yourself and not having to rely on a politician. You had the free zone that could have been so much, It had to take Alan to go down to Vieux-Fort to bring 2 call centers. And for the first time in my life, I never knew busload of people coming from Castries to work in Vieux-Fort team. That was the only time you had people coming down to work in Vieux-Fort. Instead, this Labour Party continue assisting those call centers so that they couldn't continue employing more people. They turned on them to the point that Ojo Labs had to close down. Okay? To the point that, as far as I am hearing now, okay, the amount that ITEL used to pay, they had to cut it down because they implemented a minimum wage. So they're still above the minimum wage, but they brought down the salary down. They brought down the salary. So at the end of the day, you can't tell them anything because I'm still paying you more than the minimum wage. You understand? Kenny could have done so much more to develop Vieux-Fort, to prevent Vieux-Fortians from leaving Vieux-Fort to go to Castries. With all the land that is there, okay? Instead of them trying to utilize that land to develop Vieux-Fort, to increase, Vieux-Fort can be much bigger than Castries. When you put Larry Shoes and the village and all of that together, from Opico down Tin, all that is flat land. All that is land that you can develop to be 2 to 3 times the size of Castries. Yes, still Kenny kept Vieux-Fort as a tea boutique and he shipped everything to Castries. Kenny has failed Vieux-Fortians. Have a good day, team.
You too, sir. Thank you so much for calling. 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. 716-2026. Let's go to Amanda for our first update. Let us find out what is happening in the chat room.
Good afternoon, Tim. Good afternoon, New Spinners. A few comments from earlier in the chat room. Someone says they're not feeling sorry for him because he is the reason why St. Lucia is so divided and angry. Another commentary reads, Mr. Peter Josie, I would love to hear your take on the KDA's exit. And NewsSpinner says they couldn't have chosen a more appropriate song, Tim. Another comment reads, I never thought I would see the day when Kenny was to leave a dirty SLP that has gotten entangled with Richard Frederick and the Stephen King. Someone says, Tim, please allow me to vent at something I'm very disappointed with. You mean to tell me Mr. Hubert Pierre was the head of the Red Cross for so many years, a position that he led with great honor and did so much for St. Lucia? The government has yet to release a statement on his passing. That is shameful. Excuse me. Another commentary reads, Kenny, why you run? Stay there, take your tikwa. A NewsSpinner says their interesting choice of words. He used the candidate for the next election instead of the representative for VA4. Guess the latter was not really important. Another comment reads, he needed more than class, he needed performance. Someone says, I shake my head. How quickly people forget. It's almost like all the praises heaped on someone who died while failing to talk about their rot. I will not be joining you to suggest that Kenny has class. My final straw was when I stopped supporting Kenny in 2015, was when he went after Fortuna in a personal way. And in his speech last night, he promised repeatedly to go after Lady Lee, a young female novice candidate. Good riddance to Kenny, not sorry. Another commentary reads, they say birds of a feather flock together. Kenny could never be a part of that present administration. Too clever, too much a humanitarian, and too much class. And Tim, someone says here, I'm still trying to understand what Kenny did so much for VA4, especially my community of Docamel. Kenny disappointed the Larishes community. For Kenny, Shantytown alone was VA4. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Some more updates coming up. Let's see if we have a call on the landline. In the meantime, somebody says there via WhatsApp from Texas, don't know if the comparison is accurate, but it is a valid concept of contrasting politicians. Let's see if we have some more of your WhatsApp messages to go through. And somebody says that good afternoon. Now that we've heard from Appa on NewsSpin, I hope that you try to reach Lady Lee for NewsSpinners to hear from her on Kenny D. Anthony's announcement. We have a call from Pato via WhatsApp. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, my brother.
Hi, good afternoon to you, Pato.
Yeah, good afternoon, Amanda.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, and I want to say a good afternoon to a new spinner at Miku Alfia, a.k.a. Alfifi. She tells me she's not listening to NewsSpin on no little radio, is on a boom bop.
Okay.
So that when she opens it up, the whole environment in Miku can be just breathing fresh air from NewsSpin.
So
okay?
we say hello to all the
Now-
folks who are listening via her
Yeah,
boombox.
yeah. Okay, good thing. Yeah, you added up. Good thing. Let me tell you, with all due respect, you see the caller that called after Appa, he spoke more as a leader than Appa. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Even the questions that you are asking Appa, he cannot demele himself with it effectively. As if it's something he's afraid of just speaking it out, what really happened in Viewport. You understand? I tell you, with all due respect, I respect them and I don't even know him. But I'm just going accordingly. You understand? The other guy spoke more like a leader, okay? I'm not saying he's going up for candidate or anything, but Appa has to will and come better than that. And not only him, we need a change. But all those candidates that are going against the Labour Party, they have to come strong. What do I mean when I say strong? If you are just strong in this time, you fail. You have to come to beat the strong out of the strong. Maybe somebody will understand what I'm saying tomorrow. You have to try to be better than that, okay? Now, the other thing I just want to say, the lady, the Lucian Dominican lady, I just want to say bravo for her and just keep up the good works. That is what I have to say this afternoon.
Okay, Patu, thank you so much for calling. Here's a very enjoyable Thursday. Let's see if we have another WhatsApp message to go through while we are awaiting your call. Somebody says there. Okay, let's see if we can have another message. Just bear with me while we try to go through them. Tim, wow, it is my opinion that Kenny read his political eulogy last evening. And some more of your messages to go through. Somebody says there via WhatsApp, good afternoon. I listened to Kenny's speech last evening. I'm happy he stepped down. Sometimes his speech was blurred and his speech also sounded like a eulogy. And some more of your messages to go through. Okay, let's see there. Somebody says there via WhatsApp. People vote for APA. That's a WhatsApp message. Let's see if we have a call on the landline while we go through yet another message. Somebody says that the only legacy Anthony left was building a jail. And another WhatsApp message. It says there, good day, Tim. This extremely passionately sounding Dominica National has resonated the cry of our many downtrodden in St. Lucia. I have never heard anyone else on your talk show boldly expose and express all the ills being tolerated in our timidly endearing society. The Dominican lady explicitly stated what we out here are fearful to elaborate and embark upon change. And let's see if we have some more messages. Somebody says there via WhatsApp, a very long one. Let me see if I could go through it. And it says there, agreed, Dr. Anthony has achieved during his tenure. I wish him well as he makes his exit from active politics. However, observing that none of his colleagues was on his platform and having heard him make those statements in his farewell speech last night, I seek no glory, I seek no honor, no monument, no decorated name, just my academic title. I am left with the opinion that is a man bowing out with a degree of regrets. After unwavering support by his constituents for almost 3 decades, VA4 South is not any different now than it was in 1997 when Dr. Anthony was first elected with a super mandate 16-1 and served in the position of Prime Minister for 3 terms. No significant developments in the South. Middle class growth hardly visible. No transformation of any consequence in his constituency to speak of. No signature of Dr. Anthony, not even a human resource center to say the least. Now he's hoping that his successor, saddled with myriad of state issues, will address his deficiencies. Espoir mal papai. No matter how erudite our SLP leaders, the T-boutique and mendicant syndrome remain in the interest of victory preservation. What a sad legacy for such a brilliant son of the soil to leave in his name when demitting office nearly 30 years after. An epoch now in history. Amen. So be it. We have another WhatsApp message. Somebody says, is this the same Kentry Frederick that just retired as a superintendent of police? Asking a question. Yes, that's the same individual. And let's see if we have some more of your messages to go through. What are you saying there via WhatsApp? Okay, let's take a break. Still to come on the broadcast, we'll be hearing more of Dr. Kenny Anthony as he explains that his reason for not joining the Philip J. Pierre administration. This is the most monitored talk show in the world.
You know that feeling when you have an uncontrollable desire for fried chicken? That's the KFC. A substance that stimulates your senses to identify the aroma of a secret recipe or an extra crispy crunch from any distance. It's invisible to the naked eye, but you can feel it traveling throughout your body, taking control. All so you can enjoy a juicy bite of KFC. Ignite your senses with KFC.
Lazarus's Funeral Home is here for you. Lazarus's Private Cemetery offers a peaceful resting place for your loved ones. With tranquil settings, visitation, and reflection, we believe in the compassionate care of all our departed loved ones. Lazarus's Private Cemetery, let us help you create a final resting place. Make it special. Make it Lazarus's Funeral Home, your friend in a time of need. Payment plans are available for tombs. Call us in Vidbuta at 452-7491 or in New Dock Road, VA4, 454-6555.
Lucia customers are advised that from Monday the 19th of May until the 26th of May, an island-wide meter replacement campaign will be undertaken. This is at no additional cost to customers. This is part of Lucia's ongoing commitment to providing safe, reliable, and efficient service. The new meters will ensure continued accuracy in customer usage readings and ensure that services continue to meet the highest standards. Customers with meters scheduled for replacement will receive a Lucia notice at least 48 hours before. On the day of the replacement, a uniformed Lucia technician with proper identification will undertake the work, which is generally estimated to take less than 30 minutes. To ensure a smooth process, customers are encouraged to ensure that there is a clear and unobstructed path to their meter. All questions or queries concerning this meter change should be addressed to the Lucia customer service team at 457-4440 or the metering section at 457-4607. Lucia thanks their valued customers for their cooperation, understanding, and support throughout the process.
Looking for amazing deals on tiles? Mark your calendars. Every last Thursday of the month, the Tile Gallery is offering up to 50% off on selected tiles. Whether you are renovating your kitchen, updating your bathroom, or giving your entire home a fresh new look, now is the time to transform your space and save big. Enjoy up to 50% off on selected tiles. Don't miss this incredible opportunity to upgrade your home without breaking the bank. Visit M&C Home Depot and Sunbelt locations for more details. Terms and conditions.
You asked for it and you got it. A quicker way to pay your bills online. It's fast, secure, and easy to use. No registration, no additional fees. Flow is now offering FastPay, an online service that allows you to settle your bills in less than 2 minutes. Need a receipt? FastPay will send it to your email immediately. Use FastPay now for convenience, safety, and efficiency at discoverflow.co/fastpay. Flow is keeping you connected.
In these modern times, the field of medicine has become so advanced that no one has to suffer any longer before they can be seen by a specialist doctor. La Clinique de Corps is proud to be the only healthcare provider in St. Lucia to offer the best and most experienced specialist doctors who are capable to first correctly diagnose and then successfully treat health conditions such as chronic back pain, spinal injury, sciatica, numbness, lupus, arthritis, joint pain, facial nerve pain, knee, knee, heel, and shoulder pain, cramps, and carpal tunnel syndrome. Also available at La Clinique de Corps, complete nerve test to detect nerve injury or muscle disease. All health insurances are accepted at La Clinique de Corps. So walk again pain-free with La Clinique de Corps. To book an appointment, please call 451-6559 or WhatsApp 721-9950.
Don't tell me that tire flat again. I just changed that tire.
Wait, what? You just changed that tire?
Well, I bought a used one because you didn't give me enough money.
Oh, I see. Well, you know what? Chivi's Tire Shop only carry brand new quality tires at affordable prices with free installation.
Hey, it seems you're working at Chivi's Tire Shop. How you know all that?
Come on, Brenda. The tire shop down the road from our home in the American Drywall Building.
Oh, yes. I forgot. Well, you know what, Patrick? Let's go there right now. Take your wallet. Let's go.
Chivi's Tire Shop, located at the American Drywall Building, Vic Butay. Call or WhatsApp 584-5986. Chivi's Tire Shop. Pay less, drive more.
It all started with a penny. For over 85 years, we have invested in our farmers, fishermen, people, and our country. When we were called to serve, we were here. We understand what is valuable to our people and our country. That is why we support all industries, including tourism. We are the bridge towards a brighter future and economic growth. When our people, government, and businesses called upon us, we were here. 85 years later, First National Bank St. Lucia Limited is here for you.
Hey, St. Lucians, this is the moment that you have been waiting for. St. Lucia! St. Lucian Massive, come out and celebrate with us. Learn about your libido, your energy, learn about your gut microbiome and why it is your center of health. Are you tired of taking pills for everything? Boy, I'm tired of them something that don't work. Come out and have fun with some of the top health experts and elite performer, Mr. McCasey and Nika, the chemist himself, Dr. St. Rose, and other entrepreneurs. Taste all of the products. Free admission, free prizes, and light refreshments will be available. Mark your calendars, June 3rd, 2025. Registration starts at 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. The main event is at 6:30 p.m. at the Financial Center, Point Seraphine. Listen, miss it and blame yourself. You gotta have guts in this world. Message Vanessa Cox on WhatsApp at 347-204-7670 to RSVP and for your free gift.
There are still politicians in this country who can think about the country as a whole, who can think about St. Lucia, and who could put aside their own emotional wants and desires, and who can put their country first. Some of you believe that the only way for a constituency to benefit is for its parliamentary representative to be in the cabinet, to have a seat at the table. And you are not wrong, because sometimes our cabinets do not understand that all constituencies matter in equal measure. Some may have wants greater than others. And precisely because there is something called equity, there must be absolute fairness in the treatment of all constituencies. And it is not because a particular representative sits at a cabinet or on a cabinet table that the cabinet should be used as a mechanism to divert all resources or the bulk of resources to the constituency represented by that individual. But I said to you that this thinking is myopic, it is simplistic, and it is archaic. As I have always said, what happens when the membership of the House of Assembly is increased from 17 to 21 or to 25 or maybe 30 members? Do we make every parliamentarian a minister or parliamentary secretary? Just look at the United Kingdom. The Parliament of the United Kingdom has a membership of over 650 elected members. But they have a cabinet of some 30 to 40 members. Obviously, all of them cannot be a minister. That would be an absurd proposition. And we have to mature in our politics. We have to develop our country by creating the right precedents, the right conventions. No matter how disappointing you may be with politicians, you must never ever give up on what is right, what is proper, and what is in the interest of this country. Never do that. But more pointedly, I believe it would have been an unfair burden to our country to have had two former prime ministers in the cabinet along with its current prime minister. And the two former prime ministers would have been Stephen King, myself, and the current prime minister, Philip J. Pierre. Why should we burden a country with that kind of membership simply because we were former prime ministers? As I said to you, I have always believed that I have an overriding responsibility to the St. Lucia Labour Party to encourage it to transition itself into the future.
Just so there from the outgoing MP for Vieux-Fort South, Dr. Kenny Anthony, explaining why he did not join the administration of Philip J. Pierre, or the cabinet to be more precise, after it won the July 2021 general election. Now, the former Prime Minister is entitled to his explanation, but I'm not buying into this because there must be some other underlying reason or reasons as to why he decided not to join the cabinet. I'm sure that many of you can recall at the time that the various ministers were being sworn in, an explanation was given as to why Dr. Kenny Anthony was not part of the cabinet. The explanation was provided by Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre that Dr. Kenny Anthony was at that point in time addressing certain health issues. And as soon as he has dealt with this, then an announcement will be made regarding him joining the cabinet. We have not heard any explanation from Dr. Kenny Anthony up until yesterday. We have not heard any explanation from Mr. Philip J. Pierre as well. So there must be some underlying reason or reasons as to why he decided not to join the cabinet. Let's find out what is happening in the chat room. Good afternoon to you once again, Amanda.
A few comments from me, Tim. And NewsSpinner says Miku South is way advanced than many communities on the island. They have been blessed. Another comment here reads, "Thank you, caller. This is why I will never forgive Kenny and Co for intellectually paralyzing the people of Year 4. A NewsSpinner says there, I supported Kenny Anthony from the very first time I could vote until 2015, and nobody will tell me to rewrite why I stopped supporting him. And his recent silence on critical issues only adds to my reasons. This is not about the UWP, this is about my disappointment with Kenny. Another comment reads, the SLP administration, past and present, suffer from the same thing. Their mentality is too T-boutique for St. Lucia or their constituents to develop properly. Someone says there, I won't be surprised if SLP wins VA4 again. Kenny played on their emotions last night. Another commenter reads, a man who killed one of the main industries of the country and trying to erase the legacy of JGMC, I can't feel sorry for. Said he would write to investors and ask them not to invest in our island. What the hell are you all crying or throwing a damn pity party for? And NewsSpinner says their interesting choice of words. He used the candidate. Okay, I read that already. Back to you, Tim.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Another update or two still to come from Amanda King. WhatsApp message. Dr. Kenny Anthony made strides in tourism, education, and regional leadership during his time as Prime Minister. But he also failed to speak up when his party went off track. Silence in leadership can be just as damaging as bad decisions. Accountability matters. And let's see if you have a call via WhatsApp. Good afternoon to you. This is NewsSpin. You're on the air. Hello.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Amanda.
Yes, good afternoon to you, caller.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yes, Tim. Tim, I am one that will not stand here and listen to Mr. Kenny Anthony speak on his farewell like, you know, he has done a lot for this country. We may all agree he may have contributed. So I have to agree with him for a long time that I haven't agreed with him, that no one should name him after anything, and no one should be praising him over nothing. Because we tend to have a loss of memory when it comes to real discussion in St. Lucia. Kenny Anthony had no business, zero business, in privatizing the banana industry. But he did it anyway, because poor people, and I call them poor people, that's what they always call them, of the Roseau Valley, the Mabuya Valley, or the East Coast, they were not supposed to be the rich people in the country, because they were not educated ones, Tim. You know, this was the beginning of a lot of the problems we're having today. This man single-handedly destroyed that industry by putting all his minions in different positions so they can collect what those farmers were supposed to be collecting. And yes, Tim, I was raised by farmers in the valley. I was. I remember those days when FARs were like candies at the grocery store, you know, because every week I can recall a brand new FAR used to come up in the valley. You know, we need to be honest as to what this man's legacy is, because he said he don't want people to mention, to give him any legacy or whatever I'm paraphrasing right now. You know, this Kenny Anthony, one can safely say he was supposed to be a bright prospect for St. Lucia. All of us can agree to that. He was young, he was very vibrant, he was well educated, he was well versed, you know. But Tim, this man put in a lot of policies that was detrimental to our public sector. And that is why today our public sector, every single institution is not working properly, because people has become so dependent on politicians that they forget what their purpose are and why they even work in the public sector. Timothy, we need to be honest and we need to call the spade a spade. We could have gone to tourism, nothing wrong with that. We could have had both sectors running vis-a-vis with each other. We could have improved lives and livelihood. We could have done all of that while the industry, which is the banana industry, remain thriving or even improved, I should say. But no, too many uneducated people were making too much money in this country. Tim, what did he say? And that's why I like the song you started with. There was two of them for true. There was one, Kenny, and the other one, Tony. When Kenny did this, Tony was doing otherwise. What Tony did? Tony said, I'm going to give you one college grad in every household. That has been going on for a long time, you know. Philip J.P. is still saying the same thing today. After how long? What, 20 plus years? You know, what is the matter with us, man, in this country? If we want development, my brothers and sisters, we ought to be working. We cannot be depending on government. When we are the government, we ought to work to bring financial stability in the country. If not, our governments, each and every one of them, whether we keep replacing them like our underwears, they will have to borrow till doomsday. We need a people that understand why they even exist in that island. Thank you very much, Tim.
All right, thank you so much. This is the most monitored talk show in the world. Let's see if we can go through some more of your WhatsApp messages. Once again, 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Again, 716-2026. In a moment, of course, we'll be having another update from Amanda Susanba. I think we have a call via WhatsApp. Good afternoon to you. This is NewsSpin. You on the air. Good afternoon to you, caller.
Hi, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm okay, caller. Good afternoon. Is that Mr. Fede?
Yes, Tim. It's me.
Good afternoon to you, caller.
Thank you for taking my call. Tim, today I was exchanging notes with a friend of mine in the aftermath of the Kenny Anthony speech. And I said to him, Kenny Anthony delivered some uppercuts to the Labour Party last night. And he said to me, uppercuts? He said it's more like nuclear bombs. So I want to say, Tim, that I had to then rephrase my description of how I saw the speech. And my friend was absolutely right. Tim, imagine I was working with you at Power FM in the newsroom together, and you were having your farewell party, and you decided that you weren't going to invite me to your farewell party. I mean, the whole tone, the whole context that was set for the speech, the setting, tells me that everything is not right within the Labour Party. And then you went on to say, having not invited me to your farewell speech, you said, don't honor me. I don't want any buildings, any community centers. I don't want any radio stations. I don't want any of that to be named after me. In other words, you're saying, keep all your praises to yourself. I don't need your praises. I don't need your glory. And so, Tim, this is what I found striking. Dr. Anthony last night said this. Now that I have made my exit, I can speak freely, unhindered, and unchained. I thought that this was a fascinating statement coming from a senior politician who had played such an integral role in the development of this era of the Labour Party. And so in the absence of his colleagues who he has said, I don't want you here, but I'm sending you a warning. Now that I have made my exit, I can speak freely, unhindered, and unchained. Well, Tim, I'm sure that Dr. Anthony knows that nothing is stopping him from criticizing the United Workers' Party. He has never had any reason to feel limited or chained to speak his mind freely. So it's obvious that he's sending a message to his Labour Party colleagues, whom he went on to also excoriate by saying that your views about backbench politicians, meaning politicians that are not within a cabinet setting, are myopic. Could you imagine those words coming from a member of your party, an MP who ran on a Labour Party ticket, is saying to his government that your views on ministers who choose not to be parliamentary secretaries or ministers, that these views are myopic and you have treated them badly. He went on to say that, look, you need to have higher regard and you need to treat people who are not in the cabinet a lot better than you are doing now. That was fascinating. Then this is the nuclear bomb of all bombs. He says, Tim, all politicians are not the same. He said, you don't have to be despicable, evil, or corrupt. Now, I'm sure that your listeners are all going to be wondering in their minds, who could Dr. Anthony be talking about in using these words, despicable, evil, or corrupt? And so, Tim, it is not for me to put this label on any of my colleagues on either side of the political aisle, but I'm sure that your listeners are already equating in their minds who the former prime minister was talking about. But these are very strong words. He said, a politician don't have to be despicable. He don't have to be evil or corrupt. Very, 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 very telling. Tim, I don't buy the line that he did not want to cast a shadow on the leadership of Philip J. Pierre. In fact, what it does to me is that it raises the profound question as to whether he meant by that, whether he did not want to have any arguments with Philip about who should be included in his cabinet, whether Richard Frederick, for example, comes to mind, and political legend in the country has it that Dr. Anthony did not want to sit in the same cabinet room with Richard Frederick. And so when he would have said this statement, that came to my mind at the forefront of it. And it is for Dr. Anthony to clear up whether what he meant by casting a shadow. But Tim, he ended the speech this way. He said that I want you to use the song chosen for the theme or the inspiration for the night and allow it to meditate on your hearts as you leave here tonight. And the song that he chose, Tim, was By the Rivers of Babylon. The song, Tim, took its lyrics from the biblical scripture of Psalms 137. And the words are very powerful because he went on to say, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. Now, Tim, at this time, the Israeli people were in captivity. They were colonized by the Babylonian Empire. And it is in this state of captivity, Tim, ask the Israelis to sing them a song from Israel. And the writer here, who is obviously a Jew, said, how could we sing a song, a Zion song in a foreign land? Meaning we cannot sing a song from Israel in a foreign land. So Dr. Anthony seemed to have been saying to us that the Labour Party as we know it today is foreign land to him. And he cannot sing a Zion song, which is the Labour Party as he believes it should be, in a foreign land. The Labour Party to him is in captivity by a number of unsavory characters, obviously, whom he would not have rubbed shoulders with. And so, Tim, the speech to me was a tone of regret, was a tone of hurt, was a tone of disappointment, was a tone of someone who is not bowing out gracefully. And it does raise a very important question that in journalism we've always asked. Did he jump or was he pushed? And so, Tim, my own conclusion is that Dr. Anthony was forced out by the reformations or the new transformation that is taking place within the Labour Party. And clearly, if he would have had it his way, the Labour Party would have been a different organization based on all of his expressions, all of the signals that he has given us from that speech last night, which really is a very, very telling time. All is not well. The candidate selection, when he touched on that, Tim, he was basically sending a message to the hierarchy of the Labour Party to say, look, the Vieux-Fort constituency branch will pick the candidate based on the constitution that they have. But then went on to also state that he reserves the right to choose how he interacts with those candidates or the chosen candidate, or he reserves the right to publicly say what he feels about the candidate. That's a very telling warning. And if I were Philip J. Pierre today, I would not be very impressed. I would not be an easy man. I would be very watchful and uneasy about the political situation in Vieux-Fort South. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you so much for calling. Just heard there from the second deputy political leader of the opposition, UWP, Mr. Dominic Fede. Let's turn our attention now to the chat room and find out what is happening there. Over to you, Amanda King.
Just a few, just a few comments from me. Tim, and NewsSpin says here, look at how we and the supporters marched against the racetrack, which would have been growth and employment to Vieux-Fort. Another comment here reads, another opportunity to denounce the nonsense taking place with the SLP government, but instead he chose to insult our intelligence and feed us hogwash. And UWPs want to whitewash Kenny. And NewsSpinner says here, if it was a UWP, they would say trouble in the camp. Another comment reads, but if having two former prime ministers truly redounded to the benefit of this country, the nation would gladly foot the bill. That would be a far better investment than funding both a Minister of National Security and a Minister of Crime Prevention, while crime continues to spiral out of control. Back to you, Tim.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for that update. Somebody says there, Tim, Dominic's critical assessment of Kenny's speech is quite remarkable. Dominic must have been an excellent student of literature and history. And let's see if we can go through some more of your WhatsApp messages. Bear with me while we try to access as many as possible. Okay, we're trying to see if we can access another WhatsApp message. Okay, somebody says there via WhatsApp. I think I've just read this one. We will try to go through another message. Okay, somebody says that via WhatsApp. Kenny knows Philip J. Pierre does not have leadership acumen. That is a WhatsApp message. And another one reads, Tim, Philip J. Pierre is the tree from the seed that Kenny Anthony planted. The fruits that this country is currently eating, plenty, decisiveness, politicization, class warfare, racism, and xenophobia, not to mention psychological warfare and propaganda. And we're going through as many of your WhatsApp messages as possible. All right, let's say good afternoon via WhatsApp to Rick Wayne. Good afternoon to you, sir. You are on the air.
Tim?
Yes, Rick Wayne. Good afternoon to you.
Wow. You know, somebody called earlier on and said that either they sent you a note or the person mentioned it, that Kenny's speech sounded like a eulogy.
Yes, I think several WhatsApp messages.
Did you agree with that, Tim?
I didn't get the impression that it sounded like a eulogy. No.
All right, bad question.
Because it was done that somber to signal that once he had decided not to contest elections, that he would have not, made his presence felt in our society. He said that he would be speaking out, he'd be free to speak on various issues.
People in this country seem to make eulogy synonymous with funerals and dead people and so on. Would you agree with that?
Yes. We have
And
the tendency to do that.
Eh?
We have the tendency to do that.
And you know the word has nothing to do with funerals or death or anything like that.
Yeah.
A eulogy is merely a testimonial, a moment of praising a person and so on. Doesn't have to be dead or dying or the funeral is. But I believe a lot of people feel that way when they say the word eulogy, because that's when you most often hear it commonly used in association with funerals. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it had various meanings. It has various meanings.
None of which is directly connected to funerals or death. None of them.
According to which dictionary?
Several, Jim.
Yeah.
But you can try the main one, Google, while I'm talking. You could try it. But anyway, moving on, Tim. Are you aware that, well, to my ears, I'm going to say it, I don't know if it's to your ears as well. That speech, and that's what I'm hoping that people will be discussing, as opposed to be discussing Kenny's legacy. That's a little early. Kenny can come back still, we don't know. So the legacy, I would prefer that we stuck to the man's speech, what he said last night, instead of going back and finding every fault of it, because you can do that with every politician. You agree with that?
No.
No. Okay.
Because Rick is making his political exit. So you can look at it from the perspective of him as a politician, his stewardship as the MP, and also his stewardship as the Prime Minister of the country.
All right, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that I choose to keep my comments to last night's speech, because there'll be time for...
No problem with that.
Yeah. Kenny sounded like somebody broken. And by the way, as I go along, Tim, to save time, you can stop me anytime you want to say I disagree about it. He sounded like somebody broken. I am very careful in saying bitter. But he sounded like somebody who felt terribly betrayed. I also noted that very little of what Kenny said in his speech was directed at the populace generally. In other words, much of what Kenny said, most of it, seemed to me directed at his party. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I concur, yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? And I thought, especially when he made the point that he had disinvited his fellow parliamentarians to his last supper, effectively his last supper. He told the crowd, he told us on TV and the world, via internet, that he had deliberately and calculatedly disinvited his fellow red parliamentarians to his last supper. You would agree with that?
Yes, that was clearly stated. That was clearly stated, and it was not not only stated last evening. It was stated a few months ago during a radio interview, when he said, in effect, that he owes an explanation regarding his political future to the people of VA4 South. He said that very early.
Actually, in retrospect, a number of things he has been dropping along in the previous weeks now lead us to where we are. So, I didn't hear that particular one you did. But it struck me last night that he made a point of saying that his real disciples were with him.
The constituents, yeah? Those
people
who
who
supported him,
the
yes.
people who showed when he was down, the people who never gave up on him. That constituents, he basically was saying to us, you fought, yeah, but they were represented by the people on the platform in the seats you would have expected his parliamentarian friends to be in. Instead of his fellow parliamentarians occupying those seats, the seats were occupied by the people he loved and the people who loved him back, etc., etc. Is that a fair assessment?
It is.
So I think he was talking more to his party. Now, when he said things like casting his shadow, he didn't want, he was not in the cabinet, he didn't take a seat in the cabinet because he didn't want to cast a shadow over Philip Pierre. You have to wonder, did he say that to Philip Pierre as his reason for not being ready to join the cabinet? Did he say that to him? You have to wonder about that. And put yourself in the boots of Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister, his major follower and deputy all those years, who would have learned a lot from him and all that kind of stuff, because we went through all that before. Can you imagine him now looking at Philip J. Pierre and say, look, I don't want to join your cabinet because I don't want to cast my shadow over you. In other words, to use the correct word, as casting my shadow over you and darkening you, and you can't see, overshadowing you. People are more familiar with the word overshadow. And overshadow means, well, you know what that means. Mm-hmm. You can get Amanda to check up what overshadow means for you. He said also he did not want for Philip Pierre to be walking around as if on eggshells. In other words, watching what he does and being nervous or whatever. But he never said any of that before. But now he's saying it in the open with the people he loves and the people he loves back. And he's addressing it to the people he did not invite to his Last Supper. That, I think, is very, very interesting. He also mentioned what was earlier somebody called to say that backbenchers, that he hopes future backbenchers will be treated better than he was treated. Well, who is in a position to treat backbenchers in the way he's talking about?
The Prime Minister, the Cabinet of Ministers, yeah.
Eh?
The Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Ministers. Those who are in power.
So he also tried to put some, like I said, it sounded like a man betrayed, but made, I suppose, in the name of election and the name of the party he belongs, because I think Kenny sees the Labour Party as his baby. I can also tell you that one of Kenny's greatest fears throughout his time was that he did not want a repetition of what happened with Alan Lucia and George Odlum, what ended up being called the notorious leadership struggle, and all that fell out. You know, the history is there of what happened when Lucia and George locked horns in a leadership struggle. So while pointing the fingers at what effectively, in the circumstances, were the Judases who betrayed him, he put a little powder, a little lipstick on the pig.
And it does suggest that there is need for some kind of honest explanation from the Prime Minister, and maybe Dr. Well, not so much Dr. Kenny Anthony.
You're anticipating me, but
the Prime Minister, as to why really Dr. Kenny Anthony, what was said to him, the reason as to why Dr. Kenny Anthony did not join his cabinet, because that was not what was conveyed to us earlier on.
Well, we've had several reasons why Kenya, but the official one was that he was taking 6 months to take out some health and some business issues,
right,
and would be back, and we're holding his cabinet position, which was never mentioned. And in all that time, Kenya Anthony has never said why he did not sit in the cabinet, although there are numerous reasons why he would not have reasons. Well, he said a lot of things that to do otherwise would be not keeping his word. He gave a lot of reasons why he would not be in that in cabinet as we know it. Only he chose not to say them. But they are on record, they're on videos, there are numerous ones as to why he was not in that cabinet. So nobody is surprised, and I don't think anybody is surprised either, that Kenny loves the Labour Party, and I don't think Kenny wants to harm the Labour Party. I think he feels betrayed by a number of things one could point to at the Labour Party. Kenny said a lot of things prior to the 21 elections that have come back to haunt him, etc., etc., etc. So I think for the next few weeks, we will still be discussing that actual speech and await to hear comments from the targets, from the people who in Kenny's mind obviously were the Judases who betrayed him. And that final thing, you remember before in Parliament, addressing his people in Parliament, he said, you know, when you go to a restaurant and you start talking about people and bad-talking them, he raised his voice on that. You never know who is listening to you. You never know who is sitting at the table with you, who their friend and who their relatives are. So when you go and say those things, it comes back to me. I know who I'm talking about, and they know who I'm talking about. And he repeated that last night again, that the people who had said things about him or whatever it is, and they know themselves, and he knows who they are. So that speech was a speech, to my mind, of a guy feeling thoroughly betrayed by his own, and he pointed the fingers of his own betrayers by the fact of their absence, the calculated absence. He says he told them not to be there, and they agreed, but I don't know what choice they would have had when he disinvited them, but for them to agree. What they're going to do, fight him to be at his last supper with him?
They couldn't have done that.
So
no.
that is a speech that down the road and for years to come will be talked about, because Kenny Anthony does not normally write those speeches. He's very good at talking, straight out without notes. And when Kenny, you saw him reading from those notes, that was calculated. I know the man well enough. He wants people to remember that speech, and I believe he wants people to consider everything he said in that speech, because the things he said to that in that speech will manifest a little better in the weeks ahead. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you so much. Let's hear from Dr. Kenny Anthony as he says that his decision not to contest the next general election and the activity that he had over in V4 did not involve, don't matter to the St. Lucia Labour Party at all, but only to his constituents.
I ask that I be alone with my constituents and that they do not share this platform with me. They have understood, and I appreciate it.
The they he's referring to is his fellow parliamentary colleagues as well as the hierarchy of the governing St. Lucia Labour Party. We'll have more in just a moment. This is the most monitored talk show in the world.
On Saturday, June 14th, as the island ignites at Lumina, taking over Project Chocolat, Mikal Tesha. Mikal Tesha. Mikal Tesha.
Lauren saying, call out in New York City. If you hear she ballin', I need a little rundown.
Alongside soca sensations, Ezra and Sly. Backed up by the electrifying Impulse Band. Music by Hype Kid, A1 Jugglers, the Caldem DJ Sir Lancelot. Powered by Island Sounds. Hosted by MC Donaville. Tickets $130, no door sales. Get yours at the Cell, Island Wide, Mambo's Bar in Soufriere, or online at 4circlestickets.com. On Saturday, June 14th, Lumina. From 7 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. Dress code Caribbean chic. Lucia wishes to advise customers and the public that its customer service office at the Carolic building in San Souci is temporarily closed to facilitate urgent maintenance. The Lucia Rodney Bay and Vieux offices are open to serve customers. Customers who wish to make payments during this closure are encouraged to access the My Account service at myaccount.lucialec.com. Show pays online and walk-in service options, or participating financial institutions. Payments made via SurePay and My Account Direct on weekdays from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. will be processed to customer accounts the same day. Payments made after 4 p.m. will be processed the next business day. For account balances, please dial the automated account inquiry service line at 457-4433. Customers can access other Lucelect services by using the virtual service desk at lucelect.com. The management of Lucelect deeply regrets any inconvenience caused by these closures and thanks its valued customers for their patience and understanding.
It all started with a penny. For over 85 years, we have invested in our farmers, fishermen, people, and our country. When we were called to serve, we were here. We understand what is valuable to our people and our country. That is why we support all industries, including tourism. We are the bridge towards a brighter future and economic growth. When our people, government, and businesses called upon us, we were here. 85 years later, First National Bank St. Lucia Limited is here for you.
Here's a fun fact. In just 29 seconds, you can say goodbye to paper bills forever. Seriously, in 29 seconds. That's less time than this ad. Head over to discoverflow.co or visit us in-store and update your contact information now. By October 1st, your bills will be digital, easy to access, secure, and hassle-free. So what are you waiting for? This ad still has 2 seconds left, and you could have already gone paperless.
Party with Guinness and fly to St. Kitts. Guinness St. Lucia is giving you a shot at an all-expense-paid trip to the St. Kitts Music Festival, June 26th to 28th, 2025. Experience top dancehall and soca acts from across the region. Buy 2 Guinness or 2 Guinness Smooth to enter. Drop your receipt in promo boxes or DM to We Brew Vibes on Instagram. You must be 18 and over to participate with a valid passport. Prize is non-transferable. Promotion runs May 12th to June 16th with the big draw on June 18th. Plus, look out for Guinness block parties, giveaways, and specials island-wide. Travel sponsored by Sunrise Airways. Guinness, made of more.
St. Lucia, are you ready for the ultimate all-inclusive?
Chalet Blanc, the all-white event. Tier 1 now available at Frontline Ticketing, Eventbrite, Digicel Baywalk Mall, 4 Circles Ticketing, or WhatsApp at 240-344-8629. A musical journey curated by the best local and international DJs. St. Lucia Carnival Saturday, July 19th, 1 p.m. to 8 p.m.
At Sanders Golf and Country Club, Kappa State. Look something to talk about. Unlimited. Drink, brunch buffet, top-class entertainment.
Stay tuned. This event is powered by One Golden Fox and Natalie Events.
In these modern times, the field of medicine has become so advanced that no one has to suffer any longer before they can be seen by a specialist doctor. La Clinique de Corps is proud to be the only healthcare provider in St. Lucia to offer the best and most experienced specialist doctors who are capable to first correctly diagnose and then successfully treat health conditions such as chronic back pain, spinal injury, sciatica, numbness, lupus, arthritis, joint pain, facial nerve pain, knee, heel and shoulder pain, cramps and carpal tunnel syndrome. Also available at La Clinique de Corps, complete nerve tests to detect nerve injury or muscle disease. All health insurances are accepted at La Clinique de Corps. So walk again pain-free with La Clinique de Corps. To book an appointment, please call 451-6559 or WhatsApp 721-9950.
Looking for amazing deals on tiles? Mark your calendars. Every last Thursday of the month, the Tile Gallery is offering up to 50% off on selected tiles. Whether you are renovating your kitchen, updating your bathroom, or giving your entire home a fresh new look, now is the time to transform your space and save big. Enjoy up to 50% off on selected tiles. Don't miss this incredible opportunity to upgrade your home without breaking the bank. Visit M&C Home Depot and Sunbelt locations for more details. Terms and conditions.
You know that feeling when you have an uncontrollable desire for fried chicken? That's the KFC. A substance that stimulates your senses to identify the aroma of a secret recipe or an extra crispy crunch from any distance. It's invisible to the naked eye, but you can feel it traveling throughout your body, taking control. All so you can enjoy a juicy bite of KFC. Ignite your senses with KFC.
Getting all set to conclude the Dr. Kenny Anthony show, and he'll be doing so by thanking his constituents in just a moment. But first, we have this WhatsApp message. Good day. After listening to Dr. Kenny Anthony last night, I realized that taking a backseat in the Labour Party transformed him. I saw pain, hurt, appreciation, love, regret, and wisdom in him. Regret and hurt because deep within he knows he did not treat the people the way they deserved. Continues, let's move on. What's done is done. It is obvious the SLP government does not care about us in the South. They don't want us to have anything first class. Look at which hospital they chose. Look at how they stopped the airport. Dr. Anthony, if you truly love your people, you will admit that Mr. Chasney is the only one obsessed with developing VF4, and that is why he was attempting so much to better their lives. All left to the PJP administration, and they will never develop VF4. Do not leave us. They do not like us. They only want our votes. I'm happy to see that now. Question is, what can you do to redeem yourself? Now that you are wiser, I'm sure you know the answer. Let's see if we have another WhatsApp message to go through. And somebody says there via WhatsApp. Tim, Dr. Kenny Anthony also said none, not one, none of the ministers either side can give a speech like him last night. None. He was angry, bitter. That's according to a WhatsApp message. Another one says, I hope now Dr. Kenny Anthony can disclose his famous exchange with Richard Frederick. You know what I know what you know. And we have some more. We have a lot of WhatsApp messages to go through, but I'll not be able to go through most of them because time is already against us. Kenny did not join the PJP cabinet because of the presence of RF. Simple. Tell PJP and Kenny, stop lying to us. The statement Dr. Anthony made about the future selected MP candidate was not called for. Kenny was wrong to make that statement. He cannot be and is not bigger than the SLP as an organization. If Dr. Anthony does not like the SLP candidate, he simply needs to be quiet. Kenny must accept the fact that he has failed the people of VF4 as a rep and in terms of development. VF4 has regressed under the leadership of Dr. Kenny Anthony. The SLP should have had the gonads to get rid of visionless Dr. Kenny Anthony from 2006 when he was defeated by a sick, retired octogenarian Sir John. Whereas PJP and other reps and ministers, this speak volumes. Another WhatsApp message. It is clear Philip J. Pierre chose Richard Frederick over Kenny Anthony. Let me turn my attention now to our NewsSpin question of the day. Obvious. What do you think about Dr. Kenny Anthony's political exit? What do you think about Dr. Kenny Anthony's political exit? And the NewsSpin news of the day reads, the NewsSpin news of the day, sorry, I don't have a plane to give you, South Africa's president tells Trump mid-trade talks. Sorry, I don't have a plane to give you, South Africa's president tells Trump mid-trade talks. The NewsSpin news of the day. And finally, Dr. Kenny Anthony says thank you to his constituents.
In this journey, I have been the beneficiary of your respect, love, affection, and your loyalty. I have made many beautiful and enduring friendships. I have also, sad to say, lost some friends. Sometimes because of misunderstandings. Sometimes because I was unable to deliver what was demanded of me. But I have no rancor, no malice, no hatred. I am grateful for all you have given me. In this journey, you stayed with me even when I was most vulnerable, when I was at my lowest ebb, when the people of St. Lucia, by a majority, turned their backs on me and the governments which I led. You never failed me. You stood with me. You gave me an armchair of comfort. You hugged me. I thank you. I could never, ever have asked for more. Remember, in the years leading to the elections in 2006, when all they said was that I was arrogant, and they said that I was arrogant mainly because I could have seen through their foolishness, their untruths, that I could have seen through them, and I was unafraid to say what I saw. And this Labour Party is now learning what I had learned 10, 15 years ago. And really, sometimes I sit back and find it so remarkable that the experiences that I had shared in those years have now come to haunt the politics of our times.
Outgoing VA4 South MP and former St. Lucia Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony bringing to a conclusion today's edition of the Kenny Anthony Show as a broadcast. Thank you so much for watching and listening. My name is Timothy Poleon. Goodbye.